The universal language. There is only one universal language. Mathematics. This universal language is, by definition, the language of the universe, of nature, of existence itself. There is nothing except mathematics. Mathematics is the all, the total, the whole. We are mathematical beings in a mathematical universe, interpreting the mathematical ocean of information in which we are immersed. We interpret it not in terms of mathematical form, pure math, but as mathematical content, which means the information, the experience, conveyed by mathematics. Mathematics is not unreal and abstract. It is real and concrete. Mathematics is ontological. It exists. It is what existence actually is, despite everything that human beings tell themselves to the contrary. When people write down mathematical equations, they are expressing mathematical form disconnected from mathematical content. The writing down of mathematics makes it seem unreal and abstract. The equation y equals x2, as written by a person on a piece of paper, is pure form. It has no content, no meaning, i.e. no semantics. It is pure syntax. By contrast, when y equals x2 is written by nature itself, it is both form and content, syntax and semantics. It carries specific information that you can experience. For argument's sake, let's say that all equations of the type y equals x2 correspond to the range of feelings concerned with love. As x rises, love becomes more passionate. And let us say that all equations of the type y equals x3 correspond to the range of feelings concerned with hate. If you are immersed in a world of love and hate, you are preoccupied with these emotions. What you are not preoccupied with, and what you don't perceive at all, is that you are actually immersed in a world of x2 and x3. Love and hate have meaning for you, x2 and x3 do not. People who love and hate never contemplate what the love and hate is made of, how these emotions are defined, how they exist ontologically, what is carrying these experiences, and how the carriers interact with carriers of different types of experience. All experiences have exactly the same substratum, simple sinusoids. Alone or in combination, which is why all of your experiences can interact with each other. You experience the universe as content. If you had a more powerful mind, you would be able to see the form too, i.e. the form that carries the content, which delivers the content, which allows the content to exist in the first place. Imagine you had a mind that could switch off content, i.e. all empirical experiences. Would reality disappear? According to the likes of empiricist philosophers David Hume and Bishop Berkeley, it would. According to the transcendental empiricist Immanuel Kant, it would become unknowable. They are all wrong. You would in fact encounter reality as pure form, i.e. pure mathematical syntax. You would encounter nothing but simple sinusoidal waves and their combinations. There is literally nothing else out there. The human mind has evolved in such a way as to screen out ontological form, which is permanently hidden, and instead detect only ontological content. Only reason and logic, which transcend our experiences, can lead us to the underlying form, which constitutes the intelligible, explicable aspect of reality. The philosophy of empiricism is all about content. The philosophy of rationalism is all about form. That's why they can't agree with each other. Science has proved astoundingly successful, but not as astoundingly successful as it could be, because it has combined empiricism and materialism into a reliable, yet ultimately fallacious, method. Science relies on sensory experiments to handle the empiricist aspect of reality, and relies on mathematics to handle the rationalist aspect of reality. An experiment produces some kind of observable pattern, and scientists then guess at various mathematical formulae to fit the observed pattern. This is exactly how Max Planck discovered quantum mechanics. Planck had no idea why his formula that invoked Planck's constant worked, or what it signified, but it perfectly matched the observed experimental pattern, hence had to reflect some kind of truth. This practical ad hoc success is actually the whole problem with science. It can match formulae to patterns, but it can't explain what it has thereby achieved, and what this means ontologically and epistemologically. As Nietzsche rightly said, success has always been the greatest liar. Science is just a whole bunch of speculations, conjectures and interpretations, many of them completely demented, attempting to explain why such and such a formula matches such and such an experimental pattern. Science excludes all unobservable patterns, i.e. patterns that are inaccessible to scientific experimentation. In fact, it denies that these exist. Absence of evidence is taken by science to be evidence of absence. Science applies the bogus philosophy of empiricism and materialism to everything it observes experimentally, and explicitly excludes the alternative, and much more intelligent, philosophy of rationalism and idealism. Leibniz, the brilliant rationalist philosopher and mathematician, was the supreme champion of the latter approach. For Leibniz, the universe was based on unobservable monads, minds, and the observable universe resulted from the properties of these monadic minds. As we have shown, it's easy to convert Leibniz's monadic minds into containers for complete and consistent collections of sinusoids, and then to explain the whole of reality on the basis of these mathematical energy waves originating in monads. When this is done, all interpretations of observable patterns change from indeterministic and probabilistic, as science insists, to deterministic and analytic. Leibniz defined his monads metaphysically, which meant they could not be developed in a productive way. Now, however, they can be defined mathematically, using Euler's formula and Fourier mathematics. Leibniz's monadology is one of the greatest works of all time. Written in the early 18th century, it describes metaphysically the world of holography. The scientific discovery of the second half of the 20th century. In other words, Leibniz was hundreds of years ahead of his time. The mathematics available in his day was not powerful enough for him to reach a mathematical conception of reality, so he chose rationalist metaphysics instead. Virtually all of his metaphysical statements are true, and can now be converted into rigorous mathematical statements. A Leibnizian monad is an entity defined by the generalized ontological Euler formula. It forms a complete Fourier system, and all it does is perform Fourier mathematics, both individually and collectively. That is all you need to explain the whole of reality. By applying Leibnizian monadic thinking to quantum mechanics and relativity theory, the two jewels of modern science, the crazy things that scientists say about these subjects, such as cats being simultaneously dead and alive, or reality having no absolute reference frame to guarantee objective reality, and thus a reality principle, or existence randomly leaping out of non-existence, vanish, and are replaced by logical and rational explanations. Mike Hockney has conducted this exercise in his Epic God series of books. He exposes all of the bizarre, irrationalist, empiricist misinterpretations that scientists have applied to the successful mathematical formulae they have produced. It's essential to understand that math is the part of science that works, the part that matches experimental observations. The part of science that definitely doesn't work is the systematic misinterpretation of these incredibly successful mathematical formulae via the fallacies of the philosophy of empiricism and materialism. It's science's philosophy that is wrong, not its math. Science can be easily cured by changing its philosophy to idealism and rationalism, exactly as Leibniz advocated. Scientists have never understood that they are just philosophers with a method, and that they are disastrously misinterpreting mathematics. Their calamitous philosophy is most exposed when it comes to the task of trying to reconcile quantum mechanics and general relativity. The most well-informed scientists in human history, tens of thousands of them, have been trying for decades to unify the two treasures of science. The plain fact is that they have no clue what they are doing, and the reason they have no clue is that they refuse to use any arguments based on rationalism and idealism, which are exactly the arguments they need in order to succeed in their task. Their quasi-religious faith in materialism and empiricism has destroyed their ability to think clearly. They have excluded the tools they need to succeed. Just as Muslim scientists automatically exclude any conclusions that would contradict the Quran and destroy their faith, so mainstream scientists automatically exclude any conclusions that would contradict their philosophy of materialism and empiricism, regarding which they are true believers, just like religious fundamentalists. They are as blinkered, closet-minded and fanatical as any people of faith. They have shut themselves off from reason and logic, yet, laughably and with the utmost irony, they often claim to be the sworn defenders of reason and logic. If they were, they would support rationalism rather than empiricism. In fact, they completely reject rationalism. No scientist ever defends the likes of Pythagoras, Plato, Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz and Hegel. These geniuses are all rejected out of hand. Scientists are dummies, saved from their own stupidity by the mathematics they use. Mathematics is the opposite of science. It is wholly rationalist and idealist, and has no reliance on human experiences, feelings, observations, measurements, experiments, or anything else characteristically human.